Fulton County DA Fani Willis faces some new legal hurdles in former President Trump's Georgia election interference case. One of his co-defendants is now claiming Fani Willis illegally recorded a phone call with his attorney in an unrelated case in a different state, Maryland. That defendant says, quote, if Willis does not recuse herself from this case by noon on Monday, I may have no other choice than to pursue all lawful remedies. Meanwhile, Fani Willis has repeatedly spoken publicly about the Georgia election case.
Recently, they tell me they don't like me to talk about race. Well, I'm going to talk about it anyway. Truth is, it's some challenges that come to being black. Let's say it for the record. I'm not embarrassed by anything I've done. I don't feel like we've been slowed down at all. I do think that there are efforts to slow down this train, but the train is coming.
Right out of her mouth. Oh, my goodness. Trump has a gag order and she doesn't? Now, some co-defendants in the Georgia case are reportedly considering pressing for a gag order against Fani Willis. Last week, the judge ruled against Donald Trump's motion to dismiss the entire case. We'll see what happens next. Kerri Kupec Urbahn, Fox News legal editor. So let's just start with a gag order on her. We know she likes to campaign. She's not running for anything right now. Is it a reality TV show? What?
So let's talk first about what the purpose of gag orders are in the first place. And it's to prevent harm to the case or the people involved in the case that otherwise could not be undone. And we've seen these gag orders slapped again and again after one person and one person only, and his name is Donald Trump. But my question, Harris, is how is the harm that they say Trump is causing by tweeting about political bias any different or worse than, say, the district attorney in Georgia talking publicly about the case, saying things like, God is on my side, or Letitia James, the attorney general in New York, salivating over properties that Trump owns on Twitter, live tweeting all of those events? Because let me tell you something, if I'm a business person in New York, I'd be very worried that she would do the same to me and apply the law in a way that's never been applied before against me. Just doesn't matter that I'm not Trump. She's done it once. Why would she do it again? And if I'm a potential juror in Fulton County, how would I not be intimidated by the district attorney, a very powerful law enforcement officer, making all of these comments? How would I not be nervous to not potentially side with her if I'm on that jury?
I'm going to go a little bit further than that. You think a judge would be? Because I've always wondered if, in fact, she was watching in a sequestered area her ex-lover, Nathan Wade, on the stand, and that judge didn't ever even put that on the record to even ask her. I mean, she comes out all in a huff, her hair, all over the place, and she's just got to get on that stand. Her attorneys are trying to keep her from testifying. This was in the first go-around. We showed it stem to stern here on Fox. Who is intimidated by this woman? I think that's a fair question. And if intimidation is something that a gag order would solve, why don't they put one on her?
Right, and it's, again, only been applied against one person, one way. And let's not forget, in the civil fraud trial, in that situation in New York, the ACLU, who is no friend of Donald Trump, suggested that gag orders against him are election interference. That's the ACLU talking, not Donald Trump. And so, again, if you're just the average person, whether you're living in Fulton County or you own a business in New York, I don't see how you are not intimidated by the actions of both of these law enforcement officers.
All right, we'll cover it all, as we always do. A judge appointed by President Biden is reportedly accusing his Justice Department of a double standard for defying Republican subpoenas related to Hunter Biden. According to Politico, she put DOJ attorneys on blast Friday for instructing two of their tax attorneys not to comply with those Republican subpoenas. Quote, there's a person in jail right now because you all brought a criminal lawsuit against him because he did not appear for a House subpoena. And now you guys are flouting those subpoenas and you don't have to show up, she says. That person in jail is former Trump advisor Peter Navarro. He's serving 4 months for defying a congressional subpoena over January 6th. Law professor and Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley wrote this in a new op-ed. The Justice Department continues to act with utter impunity in these cases. It abandoned consistency years ago with any semblance of restraint. Kerri, your reaction.
Jonathan Turley is right, and the judge in this case, and I give her a lot of credit for having courage to say and do the right thing, is right as well. Because let's remember why we're here. What is DOJ currently refusing to do? They are refusing to make available two of the prosecutors who are part of that Hunter Biden sweetheart plea deal. Republicans are investigating Because why? They were career IRS whistleblowers who testified that the process used when it came to Hunter Biden, and by proxy, Joe Biden, was a deviation from protocol. It was stuff they'd never seen before. They saw the special counsel let the statute of limitations lapse. So understandably, the Republicans want to bring in two of the prosecutors who are on that team and ask them some questions. Yet the Department of Justice is defying those subpoenas while simultaneously, Harris, prosecuting and sending to jail two former Trump aides for doing the exact same thing.
Wow. I mean, clear hypocrisy. But the other thing is, this is special Biden treatment. Doesn't matter which family member. You could say all their names and insert in the blank space. White House visitor logs show Hunter Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell, met with the First Lady's top aide and what she called her work husband, Anthony Bernal, in December. Just 2 days later, Hunter Biden defied that subpoena to appear before the House Oversight Committee and held a press conference. Remember, it was like all the scandal, that whole stunt. He held a press conference instead of showing up and answering that subpoena in person.
I wonder if that meeting was a public relations meeting, given what we saw on the Hill was a complete PR stunt, which maybe they won the hour, but I think they lost the war in that, given that Hunter ended up sitting down behind closed doors for that deposition. So the Republicans won on that front. But, you know, you have to remember something else. When it comes to blowing off congressional subpoenas or lying to Congress, both things which are considered contempt, the Department of Justice has almost never in its history prosecuted these things. So when the Department of Justice right now is stonewalling and saying we're not going to make our DOJ attorneys available, what they're saying is it's rules for thee, but not for me.
Clearly. I'm sure they wear the T-shirts at home. Kerri, great to see you. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.